episode of Southern Woke.
I'm Marina.
And I'm Kaylin.
And y'all, today we're gonna give y'all some reincarnation stories.
Why did it take you so long to spit that out?
I don't know. I was like, do I want to present this in a fancier way? But then I was like, just spit it out.
Yes, y'all, we're going to bring y'all some reincarnation stories to finish off this September. But we will be going into October next month, and y'all know what that means.
Spooky!
And Southern Woke loves its spooky time, its spooky season, so y'all can go ahead and be expecting a whole month of spooky episodes.
Yep. I can't wait to get with you later and figure out what we're gonna do it on. I had someone from work call me today saying that she just met a paranormal investigator, so we'll see what kind of possibilities that holds. So yeah, I'm excited.
So yeah, big things coming for October, but we're going to finish off September with some reincarnation. Now, I don't know how you feel about reincarnation as... I guess let's just go ahead and establish that right off the front. Do you believe in reincarnation?
Yes.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know. I feel like I don't. I don't strongly disbelieve in it, but I also don't.
So none of these stories that you found or in this last little bit of time convinced you?
I think they're super creepy, and I feel like it's probably too much to be a coincidence, but I don't know.
So I know you've heard the breakdown, why it's possible, because these children, because all of these cases, they're basically children that remember their past lives, because in theory they're so close to that death line because they were just brought into this life that all those memories from their death in their previous life is so fresh to them, but then they eventually outgrow it. But some of these stories, I mean, these kids know things they shouldn't, and it's so wild, and then it's fact-checked, and it's correct. And in some cases, they meet the other person's family, and it's just wild. It's just wild.
Yeah, I didn't realize how many little stories there are about these out there until I started researching it, but there are so many reincarnation stories that are fact-checked and that just make no sense and makes you think that there has to be something weird going on. And we're going to get into a whole bunch of them today. So whether y'all believe or not, you can't deny that it is super fun to read and hear about these stories and these crazy coincidences, and it's kind of creepy and spooky at the same time.
Yep. And before we get right into the stories, I do want to forewarn y'all. I know last episode we talked about how I was getting kittens. I got the kittens, and they're running around right now, so we're going to see how they act. This is their first episode, so hopefully they keep it calm.
Yeah, so if y'all see us, yeah.
I've got a laser to distract them in case they, start doing something. So hopefully we got it under wraps. Alright. You want to start her off, or you want me to?
Alright, I can go ahead and start us off. Alright, so this first story is going to be about James Leininger. So he started... You have that one too?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll pitch into it with it.
Okay, good. Alright, so James Leininger started talking about his love for fighter planes at a very, very young age. And you're probably thinking that's not anything too crazy. All kids like planes. They were around playing with their little toy planes. Well, this was a little bit different. James could go into extreme specifics of how a fighter plane worked. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I don't know any 5-year-olds running around talking about the different turbines and everything on a plane and how it actually operates. I don't even know that. I'm 25. So his parents were like, okay, this is kind of weird. You have so much information on this. Let's dig into this a little bit further. Well, eventually James started having nightmares where he saw himself flying a plane and getting shot at by a Japanese fighter pilot. And the fighter pilot's plane had a red circle on it. And eventually James ended up dying in this dream. So he went ahead and he even knew that that was actually a memory that he used to have, and he could recall dying, and he could even recall what the name of the plane that he was flying in at the time was. The name of the plane, he said, was the Corsair. And then he could even remember the name of the boat from which the plane launched off of, which was an Atoma. Both of these names were verified along with his alleged name in his past life, which was James Huston.
But actually, the plane that he was flying in the day that he died wasn't a Corsair. And that was the one thing because his dad was hardcore, my son is not reincarnated. And he found that one mishap that James had said that he died in the Corsair. But turns out later on, they found the old James's daughter, I believe, and she gave them a box of pictures, and one of them was James with his favorite plane that he just loved to fly as a hobby, and it was a Corsair. So that's what the facts were.
I didn't see that part. But still, the fact that somebody that young could point out that many facts about a random person, that's still kind of creepy. I didn't know that the dad... I was actually thinking about that. Like, if my son walked up to me at, like, 3 and started busting out a bunch of facts about random stuff, like, would I be happy that my son was reincarnated? I feel like I wouldn't.
Yeah, a lot of these parents, like, don't want to believe it.
Because then I feel like it's, like, not even, like, really, like, your son. You feel like you're raising, like, somebody else.
It's interesting because one of these stories is gonna F your brain up because...
I can't wait.
But yeah, this kid, he really... Out of all the stories, I think there's, like, the most evidence with him. Just because of everything that he said. It's crazy. Let's see. And then, the family, I believe, set up some kind of, like, memorial site in Texas for the people that died that day in that whatever battle. And James went there and met the veterans from that day, and it was like people that he worked with, and he like knew them by name right
That's
off
so
the bat. And he was like upset because he was expecting to see all his old friends like still aged the way they were, but they were all like literally 70. And he was just like, that just made me really sad. They're all old now. And
So, I didn't specifically have, like, the age that he was whenever all this started coming back. Everything that I said was he was just at a very young age. Do you have a specific age by any chance?
Around 2 years old, he started talking about it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Because, like, his mom said that I think when he was, like, 3 years old, they went to, like, a World War II exhibit, and he would cry and cry when they would take him away because he was just, like, admiring all the plane stuff there. And they got him a Blue Angels DVD, and they brought it home, and he would just watch it 24/7 of the planes. So, it started from a very young age. And then another interesting fact was he used to play with G.I. Joe toys, and he named them Leon, Willie, and Walter. And his parents asked him, like, why did you name them that? And he said, those are the guys that met me in heaven when I first got there. And it turns out those were, like, real people he served with that died with him that day, I think. Or died since then.
That's super creepy. I didn't hear that part.
And then they asked him, do you remember any of your other pilot friends? And he said Jack Larson. And then one day his dad was reading a World War II book, and James sat on his lap and pointed out to a page and said, that's where my plane was shot down. And then his dad asked if he asked one of his, like, World War II friends if any Corsairs were on the Natoma, and there was no confirmed on there, so that's where he got his doubt from, but then it was later found.
Alright, what is our next story?
Let's see. Ooh, some 9/11 reincarnation stories. I figured it was pretty fitting given that we did Afghanistan not too long ago and talked about it. Kittens, what are y'all doing? Oh, that's their toy. I can't fuss at them for playing with their toy. Oh well. Y'all know what's going on. Okay. So, some quick little fun facts though. 60% of reincarnation cases are male. So only males will, like, kind of remember more. Mostly died in freak accidents or unusual deaths in their past life. 90% said they were the same sex in the past life, and the average age of death is at 20 years old. So, because there's a lot of science that goes on behind reincarnation, like a lot of psychologists are very into it. Hey, I'm gonna have to figure out a solution to this. Alright, so my first reincarnation story from 9/11 is from this little boy named Thomas Nolan. And when he was 3, he began telling his parents that he was a firefighter that died in 9/11. He wasn't alive for 9/11, obviously. and was never told or shown anything about it. And when asked what he wanted to be when he grew up, he said he doesn't just want to be a firefighter. He had always been one and already am one. And then he like would go on and tell these stories like, I used to wake up at a certain time, go to work, I'd come home, take off my fire proximity suit. Like he knew his whole routine from this past life. And he said that he remembered using an axe to get behind the burning walls that day, trying to save the people. And his parents showed him a picture of the Twin Towers before 9/11. He said, the bad men burned these buildings and people had to jump and I couldn't help. They were people waiting for my help, but I couldn't get to them. And they were using a Fort Johnson R8 model fire truck, and that was something that was confirmed as fact. But that's all the information we have on that case. But
Okay, so the only thing that's like unsettling I feel like about that is I cannot picture a kid at that age saying, I used a Fort Johnson 4.8 model fire truck. Like a kid's, those words are coming out of a child's mouth. That's crazy.
yeah, that's what makes it so believable, because like there's really no way that he would know that.
Yeah.
That's not even like common knowledge to anybody that knows like historic facts about 9/11 or whatever. Like, I don't know. And then this is a mother named Lucia, and it was her son that was quote unquote reincarnated, but she hasn't released his name. But her son claims he was a building worker at the World Trade Center during 9/11, and when shown a picture of the tower, he was able to point to the window where he worked. Said he felt the building falling on top of him, and he's still buried there.
That's horrifying.
I know. Like, I really could imagine if I had a kid and they would just tell me all the time, I remember dying. I'm still buried under
That's
the
literally
World
gonna be
Trade
your
Center.
kid though, like, that's your luck.
I know. I literally hear an ice cream truck outside.
I think
What
we
the
went back in
hell
time.
is This just turned into like an episode of Stranger Things now. Anyways, okay, my last, was this a 9/11 one? Oh yes, indeed it was. Okay, so this little boy named Cade, when he was a baby, he developed very fast and had an old soul and seemed upset often. He would have conversations with adults at 3 years old, and he remembers dying. He went into his parents' room screaming at night one day that he fell off a building and died. He worked in the building and saw the Statue of Liberty from his window. He was in the building when it was hit by something and it exploded and fell to the ground, and he saw himself die from above. And he watched the brains come out and covered up with rubble. And he grew up like being terrified of tall buildings and planes, and then he like began rejecting his name and wanted to only go by the other guy's name. Like this poor little boy, like it really effed him up mentally. Cause like they showed clips of him in this video, and they would like bring him into a city. He would hate going into cities because the tall buildings, the planes coming in and out, like he just could not handle.
That is crazy, and then I don't know. I just can't imagine like my son like saying like, "Hey, I think I'm somebody else. I want to be called by a different name."
I know.
And then you having to like let go of like your son. I don't know. That's I feel like that's a lot. But still, like if reincarnation is true, then like that poor kid that like nobody's like listening to him or believing that he's somebody else and wants to go by a different name.
I know. Oh wait, did we mention for that reincarnation story for James, the World War II kid? It has such a sweet ending that made me freaking cry, because they brought him out on a boat where his plane was shot down, and like he put like this little flower thing in the water and was like able to finally like let go, and he just sat there and cried and cried and cried into his parents' arms, and it made me cry.
That is actually super sad.
I was like, there's no way he's faking that.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Okay. What's your next story?
Alright, this next one is a child named Ryan from Oklahoma. He began talking about his past life in Hollywood around the age of 4. And his parents had bought a book all about Hollywood, and that's when further memories began to get triggered for him. He saw a picture from a 1932 movie called Night After Night. He said he was friends with one of the men in that picture from that movie, and he pointed to it, and he even identified himself in the picture as a man named Marty Martin, who apparently was like an actor back in the day. I don't think I've ever heard of him. But he could remember correctly a scene that he'd acted in, and he could remember a bunch of random details about Martin's life. He remembered Martin's days of tap dancing on Broadway, his 3 younger sisters, and even the color of his car. Ryan said that he enjoyed being Ryan, but he would rather go back to being Marty and living in Hollywood with his mansion and a large pool. He also identified correctly over 60 truths about Martin's life, including the fact that he was 61 when he died, even though his death certificate said that he had died at 59. So it's like little things like that, I feel like, that can correct it. Like, even if his death certificate says it wrong, but this kid knows.
Yeah, I saw that story too. I thought it was so funny because, like, all these other kids seemed really upset, but this little guy seemed pissed that he was reincarnated.
I would be too! Like, he lived in a mansion and a giant pool in Hollywood now.
Like, his mom said that he would be like, I want my swimming pool, I want my dog, like, he would cry and beg to be brought to Hollywood. And I'm like, could you imagine thinking you just have this brat, but really, like, he was...
Exactly.
Oh, also, turns out he wasn't... The reason why he isn't a known actor is because he was only, like, an extra. He was only ever an extra in things.
But how do you have a mansion in Hollywood?
Because he... Okay, wait. Because he did travel around the world and had, like, very lavish vacations. He had, like, 5 wives. Like...
One of those guys.
And toward the end of his life, he worked for, like, a very big Hollywood agency.
Heard.
And also, the little boy, what was his name? Ryan. He would say he lived on a street with rock in it, and he did live on Roxbury Drive. Like, that one... that one's a feel-good story about this, because some of these stories are, like, really heavy or just really weird. Oh, and then there was a quote. He said, I don't know why God would let you get to 61 and make you come back as a baby. Like,
yeah, the kid sounds so spoiled. Like, if this isn't true, this kid needs a, like, life adjustment, but...
I know. Okay. Oh, wait. This one is really interesting, because this little boy claims he's not even from here. So, his name is Boriska, and he was born January 11th in 1996 in Russia. And this boy developed very fast. At only 15 days old, he was holding his head up by himself. At 4 months old, he was already pronouncing words. At 5.5 years old, he could read, draw, and paint. He knew crazy things, had a large vocabulary, and had a great memory, and would talk about space all the time. And his parents didn't know where he would get this information from. At 35 months, which really bugs me that they said 35 months, because how many years is that? What is 35 divided by 12? That's nearly almost 3 years old?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was almost 3 years old when he began saying he was from Mars. And his parents would find him meditating in his room, like in a deep trance. And he would be learning things from some external force.
Dude, throw the whole kid away at that point.
No!
I'm not playing with that.
No. So, he began getting a lot of attention in Russia when he was about 7 years old because he went on a camping trip. And there was this professor there, and one of the nights, Boriska sat everyone around the campfire and was like, I'm gonna tell y'all where I'm from.
You know everybody was playing into this too.
So he claimed to be a Martian.
Of course.
Of course. And said they breathe carbon dioxide. They stop aging at 35 years old, so they're partially immortal. They don't die from old age, but they can be killed. and they are super tall. They are still living on Mars, and his past life was long, long ago when Earth was one continent called Lemuria, which is similar to Atlantis, and this was like before even like Pangea, because I think Pangea, that it was already broken up. This was one continent time. But at the time that the Earth was like that, he claims that Mars was a full-blown advanced society. So there was apparently a war that broke out, and nuclear bombs were dropped, and it ruined Mars' surface, and they were forced to live on the inside. And he said that they tried to make a new sun out of Jupiter, and that's why there's a giant red spot on Jupiter.
Which we talked about last
I
time.
know. I know. Which I was thinking to myself, like, in that research it says that that giant red spot is a storm that's been there for like 300 or whatever years, but 300 or whatever years ago, the Earth wasn't one continent. So, like, maybe the red spot has always been there and the storm has just been there for those many years? I don't know. Maybe that's a flaw in his story and we just debunked it, but... Oh, I don't know. Okay. Also, he said he was part of the military there, and they would fly to Earth pretty often, and the two planets were in like pretty good communication. And said Martians traveled all throughout space, and they would visit the ancient Egyptians, and said that there are keys to life in the Sphinx. Apparently, he claims that there is a switch behind the Sphinx's ear that opens up this secret chamber, and the key to life is in it. Which is interesting.
Have we like fact checked that? Have we looked behind the Sphinx ear yet?
In the video that I watched, which all these stories came from Kendall Ray's YouTube video, if y'all want to go like actually look at the real videos. But what was I talking about? Oh, the Sphinx. She said that they recently found evidence that there is a room that they didn't know about in the Sphinx, but it's so delicate, no one can like climb up to see if there's really a switch on its ear, which I'm thinking, then fly a drone up there.
Yeah, like we have the technology to do that, right?
Yeah, so I don't know, but I also haven't tried to actually look up what's going on with that. But
Hey,
I'm sure
if there's any like people that are Egyptologists out there and that go out there and investigate, go look behind the Sphinx ear and let us know. southernworldpodcast@gmail.com.
Shut up. Okay. What else did he say? Is that it? Oh, he also told us, he kind of like took a shot at us and said, humans, because we breathe oxygen, that's why we age so fast.
Actually
if only
saw.
we couldn't breathe oxygen.
I actually saw like a theory about that, saying like, what if oxygen's a drug that ages us and we just die? And like that's like, or maybe I saw a TikTok about it.
Yeah, but then that would like mean that there's something else that we're breathing other than oxygen that's keeping us alive. But that's not true, because carbon dioxide is also in the atmosphere. But like if we, wait, no it's not. We exhale that. You know what, we're not talking about this.
Alright y'all, our next story is going to be a guy named Hunter, who is a big golf fan. So at the age of 2, Hunter was watching TV with his father when a clip appeared on 13-time major golf champion Bobby Jones. Now I don't watch a lot of golf, my parents do, so I don't know who Bobby Jones is, y'all might. But Hunter, now remember, he's 2 years old, turns to his dad and said that he had been Bobby Jones when he had been big, and demanded to be called Bobby from that moment onward. Once again, I still get that image of my 2-year-old looking at me and be like, my name's Bobby from now on. Like, demanded. His father decided to test him. So he printed out several pictures of different houses, and one of the houses that he printed out was Bobby Jones' house. And he went ahead and said, which house is Bobby's actual house? And the kid pointed to all the houses and called them houses, but the one that was Bobby's actual house, he called home. So that's like kind of sweet, but that's also really kind of creepy. And then at the age of 3, Hunter started taking golf lessons, and he has been likened and compared to Bobby Jones in his style of play. Hunter, who is now a little bit older, has won 41 out of 50 junior golf tournaments and is seen as potentially the next Tiger Woods.
the hell?
So this kid's like a growing star. He's still like very young, but he's winning all of the golf, like junior golf tournaments. So like in our lifetime, we could see him being a big pro player.
And it was all because he was reincarnated from another golfer.
That's what he says. He says that he was Bobby Jones.
Wow. Go him. That's freaky. Alright, so, okay, I'm gonna save my really freaky one for last. Because I only have 2 more stories left.
Heard.
Okay. So, my next one is this little boy named Cameron McCulley. And he was born in Glasgow, Scotland. And he claims he was reincarnated and he was also named Cameron in his past life. And he lived on a remote island named Barra. And Barra is a real island that is off the coast of Scotland. And he began talking about it when he was about 2 years old. And he would say like his favorite thing to do on the island was go to the beach with his dog. He had a dad named Shane Robertson that died in a car accident. He remembers falling through a hole to a new family when he died. And then he would say like he loves and missed his old mom. And just imagine his fucking mom.
Are we just gonna skip over the fact that he fell through a hole into his new family?
Yeah, right.
Like, is that like the miracle of life? Like,
but like Barisco over here had to wait centuries.
Literally,
to be
this kid literally
reincarnated.
died and just fell.
I don't understand. Okay.
Love
So,
my mom.
and then he would run around and call himself Bar Boy.
I hate that. I hate that.
And he said no one should be afraid of dying because you'll just come back as someone else. I guess that's optimistic. He said he remembered living by an airport and watching planes on the beach. And they brought him to Barra. And turns out they indeed landed on a beach in the airplane. So then they went to a library but couldn't find any Robertsons that used to live there. So they went driving around the beach to see if he could sense if anything felt like home. But the next day they got a phone call with someone that had info that there was a Robertson family that lived on the beach. It was their vacation home. So they went to that house and they like walked around and he started getting like super emotional and was remembering certain things like, oh, that fence used to be there, that didn't used to be there, and like he would just touch things and like cry. So then they flew back home and his mom got in touch with a genealogist and discovered that this family was from Glasgow originally and had a vacation home in Barra for 20 years. And they traced a family member, which I believe was this old boy Cameron's sister at the time, Jillian. And they visited her. And she confirmed the whole dog story, but said that there was no one named Shane, no one that died in a car accident, and there was no Cameron. So it's weird. Maybe he was remembering multiple past lives is a theory. And he would always say how awesome it was to be a grandpa and then fall through a hole and be a kid again. So there's Cameron.
Alright, Cameron.
Bar boy.
Well, while we're on the story of ridiculous ones, let's go ahead and talk about this guy. So, I am so much less likely to believe if it's an adult saying that they're reincarnated over a child for some reason. Well, for obvious reasons. So, in 2015, retired Fire Chief Jeffrey Keane came across evidence which he suggested was proof that he was Civil War General John B. Gordon in his past life. So this is in 2015, y'all. This is like 6 years ago this guy's saying this. While he was visiting a Civil War battlefield one day, he was overcome with emotion and started to have trouble breathing. At one point, he even thought he was having a heart attack. A while later, he went and spoke to a psychic, and as they talked, he felt compelled to just say the words, "not yet," like randomly in conversation. So I guess he was just like talking to the psychic, and he was just like, "not yet."
Okay.
So he had no idea why. And then later on, he found a Civil War magazine that he just found. And while he was flicking through it, the words "not yet" jumped out at him. It was a quote from General Gordon, of course, who repeated those words while telling his troops to stay back during a battle. And when that general had said the words "not yet," it happened to be the same part of the battlefield that he was walking on that day when he had that heart attack and shortness of breath.
Okay, but how do they know that general was right there on that piece of land?
I was thinking that too, but I didn't really want to question it. Now, the only consolation I'll give towards this guy is they showed pictures of how he looks and how the general looks, side by side, and they look really, really similar. It's kind of creepy.
That was a thing, I don't know if you actually saw pictures, of, for instance, the Hollywood boy. They look similar. A lot of these reincarnation stories, they have very, similarities.
So, I'll give him that. And then it kind of gets a little bit even crazier. So when Jeffrey turned 30, he went to the hospital with an immense pain in his jaw and his face, and no cause was found. And sure enough, when investigators looked through General Gordon's life, they saw he was shot in the face at 30 years old.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah, that's a Fire Chief Jeffrey King for you.
Alright, shit's about to get even weirder.
Let's do it. Wait, is this your last one? Should we end on the really weird one? Or should we go with that one right now?
You got, how many more stories you got?
I only have one other one that I really do want to read, because the other ones are kind of all the same.
Alright, go for it.
Let's do that. Yours isn't on Anne Frank, is it?
No.
Okay. So, y'all probably know the story of Anne Frank. We all heard about it in school. It's the girl who was hiding from the Nazis, and she lived behind a bookshelf, hidden for all those years. Or she lived there for 2 years before she was captured and transferred to a concentration camp, where of course she died shortly after. Well, 9 years after Anne Frank died, a little girl named Barbo came into the world. And as soon as she could speak, she started claiming that her parents were not her real parents, and that she wasn't in her real home. And during that period, she had frequent nightmares that people were breaking into her house and trying to come into her attic and get her. So while visiting New Amsterdam with her parents one day, apparently the little girl Barbo was able to bring her parents right to Anne Frank's house without any direction or guidance. And then once inside the house, she was able to navigate the house like she knew where everything was and bring them right to Anne Frank's hiding spot without any help. So if that is true, that is really interesting. But I don't know. I guess because I don't have video proof of these, I have such a hard time believing that.
Yeah. But shit. That. Because the little boy that went back to that old house on the beach, he knew his way around the house. It's crazy. Okay.
I'm ready for this
get
one.
Weird. Alright, so this is the story of the Pollock twins. So in the 1940s, there was a couple that got married, and in 1946 they had a daughter, Joanna, and in 1951 they had a daughter named Jacqueline. They were living in England. They were mostly raised by their grandma majority of the time because their parents had a grocery delivery business. Joanna was a great big sister and kind of took on the motherly role of watching Jacqueline, and both were very creative. Joanna said she would never grow up to be a lady, and she would always be a kid. So that was a weird saying that she would bring up often. She would always say she would never grow up to be a woman. And so it was May 7th of 1957. Jacqueline was 7 and Joanna was 11, and they were walking to church with some other little kids, and a car came behind them and just came straight for them and hit them and plowed them over like bowling pins. And okay, so it turned out the driver was a mother that had recently lost custody of her kids and was trying to kill herself, but really people think she had that mindset of, if I can't have my kids, no one can have theirs.
Yeah.
So it was a very random victim moment. So that was awful. But the father was a very spiritual guy, and he would try to connect with the girls' spirits very often. And he would have visions of them coming to him in his sleep and would feel their presence in their room. He would pray to God to show him proof of reincarnation. and then he would have dreams of the girls being reborn into his family. And then eventually, the mom got pregnant, and the doctor confirmed that there was just one baby. But John, the dad, always said, no, it's two of them. They're coming back. And then sure enough, on the operation table, two girls were born. And they named them Jennifer and Jillian.
Which is the same names as the two already dead kids?
No, that was Joanna and Jacqueline.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, how old were they when they passed away? Or what year was this again? Also, I have so many questions. I'm trying to re-get my story together.
So, Jacqueline was 7 when she died, and Joanna was 11, and that was in 1957.
Okay, I guess what I was really wondering is, like, did they not have the technology to know there was 2 kids in there at the time, which I guess could be possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, this was obviously really fucking weird. And then the mom was, like, very shut off to it all. Like, she didn't want to accept it. She thought it was very weird. She never wanted to believe John. But then the mom started realizing that the twins had the same birthmarks that Jacqueline had and Jillian. So they both had the same birthmarks. Jacqueline had a scar on her eye. So Jacqueline is the first sister. She had fallen down the stairs and hit her eye on a bucket, and then Jillian was born with a scar on her eye. And when the twins were old enough, they began saying they wanted their toys and described the dead girls' toys that they wanted to play with. And they had kept those toys. They were in the attic, so they went and got them, brought them down, expecting them, like, normal girls to, like, fight over them, like. But no, they already knew which one was whose favorites. They shared it perfectly. They had no idea they had 2 sisters that died. They had the same favorite foods. They walked the same. They had the same body types. Jacqueline had trouble writing and holding a pencil when she was growing up, and so did Jennifer. And then Mom would hear the twins talking about their death when they were, like, alone. And they were always super cautious around cars.
As they should be.
Yeah, and that's the creepy story of the twins that were reborn into their family.
That's weird. Like, I want to follow up with them now. They're, like, probably, what, 60 years old, 70?
I think there are scientists that keep up with them. Because if I'm remembering right, I think there was, like, a video clip of them, like, being older now. Like, really old. Not really old, maybe, like, 50s. And they're, like, in some lab with a doctor. I don't know. But it's fucking nuts.
I don't know if that makes me feel, like, better or worse. Like, I don't know. I think concept reincarnation is cool because, like, people can obviously come back. But also...
Cat. Okay. But yeah, I definitely think, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm, like, at a 9 of thinking it's totally real. I have this ongoing theory that, like, you are just gonna get reincarnated until your, like, soul reaches this, like, enlightened state, and then you're just kind of, like, free to travel wherever. I don't know. That's what I like to think.
That would be a cool concept.
It's very Stephen Greer of me.
It is. Well, I have, like, 2 or 3 other stories, but they're also just very small things where a kid points to a picture of an older family member and says, I was this person back in the day, and then that's about it.
That's most of them. Because I guess some families, when they find out these things, they're not, I mean, maybe they are hesitant to, like, look into it to see if it's real, because it would just freak them out. So maybe there's just, like, other stories that could be really true, but we don't know much because the parents are too scared.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of parents that if their kids would say that, they'd be like, hey, don't ever say that again, like, stop talking about that. And then just, like, shut them up.
Yeah, because, like, a lot of these stories that I told, there was, like, more backstory to them, and a lot of it was like, the mother was a Southern Baptist. I'm like,
why is it always a Southern Baptist?
I don't know. And, like, most of them were Catholic, and And it would always be the dad that's like, I want my kid. Or, well, that one kid. That one. I don't know. I think it's crazy, and I think these stories, or I think most of them are real. I think the World War II one is real, for sure. That one just, like, gets me in my feels. And the fact that I actually cried over it, like, that little boy, I just want to hug him, even though he's probably, like, my age now. I don't know.
Alright, y'all. Well, let us know what y'all think about reincarnation. Obviously, comment on our socials whenever we post pictures about them. Message us, email us. Let us know what you think. We always love hearing from y'all.
Yep. And until next time, you guys. Oh wait, before I end, y'all stay tuned for Spooky October because we're gonna try to like do something interesting.
Yeah, the next 2 episodes will be good ones, y'all. So make sure y'all come back and stay tuned for those.
Yep. All right.
All right, stay woke, friends.
Stay woke.